This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources. Thank you very much for joining me today. Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Mark. Enjoying the lovely weather.
Oh, good. Yes, it's good to be enjoying the weather. I don't have that weather over here in Rotterdam, but I'm sure it's heading my way. But yes, it's good to get out, particularly when the markets are not as favourable. At least this time of year, we do have the weather to keep us happy, hopefully.
Less said about the markets at the moment, the better, I think. Should we talk about something else today?
Indeed. So, a couple of announcements from Kavango Resources. Then there's two RNSs today, a lengthy operational update, and of course the announcement that you're buying power metals out of the Kanye Resources project. So let's focus on that one first then. How come you've made this decision? What was the rationale behind it?
Well, it's a really big day for Kavango today. This deal for us is a cracker of a deal. It puts us in complete control of our Kalahari Copper Belt and our Ditau projects. These originally, of course, were 100% owned by Kavango. But back in 2020, when Kavango, frankly, was on its knees, when the share price was sort of, much, much lower than it was today, Power Metal Resources really stepped into the breach and helped support the company. And over the last few years, we've effectively been through the power incubation model, where we've developed the business and grown the company up to a point where we can really stand on our own 2 feet. And following our recent financing and with the market conditions as they are, we thought that now was an ideal time for us to put obviously a fantastic asset on Power's balance sheet. We're buying the stake in Kanye out in equity today, plus warrants, which of course will be beneficial for Kavango because that provides us with a pathway to more financing. But from our perspective, what is absolutely brilliant about us is it gives us 100% control over this project. So where I think the messaging on Kanye has been somewhat diluted because of the 50-50 split, now Kavango and Kavango shareholders can all benefit from the 100% upside that these really exciting projects have to offer.
Excellent. Okay, I did notice a comment you made that Kavango will become one of the largest landholders for copper exploration in Botswana. So you're really going for Botswana as your focus. What are going to be the plans specifically with Kanye then, now that you have 100% ownership?
Well, we're in talks with a number of different parties. We have been for a few months. We're looking at different options. There are a few, not quite offers on the table. It'd be premature to say that, but we're looking at both strategic investment. We're looking at a possible spin out of the entire vehicle. That's a possibility that we're looking at. And we've also had another interesting approach from quite a large company that's taken some interest in us and is currently going through our data room. So there's a lot of interest in the copper belt, and in particular, what we've identified is this ground, this zone in the middle of the belt, where you've got a lot of activity up in the northeast in Botswana. That's where most of the discoveries and the mines have been found. And then over to the west in Namibia, you've got similar level of activities there. But where we're based, where we've taken our prospecting licenses, there's been a lot of the consensus was that the sand cover was too deep, and that the mineralisation deposits, might not be there. That regional geology wouldn't extend through the areas that we've taken licenses in. But the really significant point about today's news is that our guys on the ground have been through an extensive mapping process over the last 6 months, and we found this critical Nguako Pan Dakar formation contact, which is the controlling source of a lot of mineralisation across the KCB, and we found that in most of our licenses. So we've got hugely prospective ground. We're working towards our first drill campaign, and really our plan, Mark, is now very, very simple over the next few months. We're dedicating pretty much all of our efforts in the field to getting the KCB up to being drill ready, with a view to going out and making mineral discovery.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for that update. Sounds like you've certainly got the plans ready to go for the rest of the year. So let's take a look then at Ditau then, and of course with the ops update you've released today. So what's going on at Ditau? I notice you're very happy with the progress you've made so far. You're encouraged by what you've seen from the CSAMP technology, and you're pursuing a more comprehensive program across 12 targets at Ditau. So how are you feeling, Ben, about this?
Well, the CSAM technology is an absolute game changer for us. We have used it in the past, but I think again, just being sort of completely upfront here, I don't think we've used it as effectively as we could have done. So, for example, we didn't run long enough lines over the target areas that we were surveying, and we also tended not to use the high frequency. We didn't collect high frequency data as well. Now, the length of the lines is very important because the Jeremy Brett, our geophysicist, who's now really sort of helping lead our geophysics in Kavango, he came up with a really interesting analogy, which I thought was quite poignant. And it's that some of the work that Kavango had done, it's like looking at the coastline through the portal of a ship. So where we'd taken these sort of quite short lines of CSANT surveys, and so it only gave us quite a restricted view. Whereas obviously to see the full coast, you want to be up on the deck. So that's really what the CSAM technology enables us to do. It gives us a deck-side view of the entire coastline. And what's been very important about this drill campaign, which we've just successfully completed, is that we've now got drill core to back up the survey results. Now, the reason that's very important is that it means we can now go and deploy the CSAM technology across the entire project area with a high degree of confidence that we're going to be able to map the subsurface bodies much better than we have done in the past. Plus, we've also got some interesting leads to potential mineralisation. We've got some signs of alteration within the various systems. We've got some very interesting signs on stratigraphy, so the rock layers and potential controlling faults. So all in all, this is looking like it's providing us with exactly the data we need to take the project forward. And I also mentioned about the fact that we're taking the high frequency data now as well. Thanks again to Jeremy's input. We've been working with a guy in Florida who's processing the data for us. And what the high frequency data gives us is a very, very clear view of the stratigraphy using the CSAM technology down to a depth of about 400 meters. So where the AMT, so the low frequency, tends to look much deeper, the high frequency gives you much clearer definition at lower depths, or shallower depths, I should say. So it's all very, very exciting for us. There's a huge amount of data for us to work with. And of course, we're waiting any day now on these results from DD004 and this 28-metre zone of interest, which nobody really knows what those rocks are, other than they look extremely interesting. So fingers crossed that those might actually turn up something, and who knows, maybe take us a step forward to a discovery.
Indeed, yes. Okay. So what's going on then? You're preparing the final drill report and sort of recommending recommendations for the next steps. Is the idea to build 3D models as we've seen in the past from Kavango?
Ultimately, yes. So again, we'll be using the CSAM technology to guide that. So the first step is to do sort of a drill wrap up. I think one of the lessons that we learned from the KSZ is that our internal procedures, they weren't really at the level or standard that they need to be for a company dealing with projects as complex as ours. That's a bit of a legacy issue. It's hopefully one of the final legacy issues that we're fixing now. But we learned this from the KSZ. We were a bit slow off the ground, getting the KSZ data all together and compiling the final report for that. Now, admittedly, the KSZ is a much more complex, much more challenging project, and there is still more work we need to do there. But we've learned the lessons from the mistakes that we made at KSZ, and we're now looking to learn from those in terms of what we do at Detail, which means our guys are working on the post-drill wrap-up immediately. And we'll look to publish a version of that report together with the exploration plan for Detail in the future.
And on the acquisition then, Ben, why is it a good time at the minute, business-wise, for Kavango to be doing this kind of transaction?
This supercharges us ahead of the recovery mark. I mean, it really is that simple. For us to take 100% control of this prime exploration territory in one of the world's sort of most exciting copper jurisdictions is a big deal for a company of Kavango's size. We've been very fortunate over the last few years to have had the support from power that we've had. There's no way that Kavango on its own could have made as much progress with the finances that were available were it not for power's support. And as I've just talked about a moment ago, there was a lot in the business as well that needed to be fixed. There really was. Operationally, it did need sort of quite a lot of work. But now that we're sort of through all of that, we've learned from the mistakes that we've made and the lessons that we needed to learn to improve as a company. We're in a much, much stronger position to stand on our own 2 feet. So the deal certainly works for Power and Power shareholders. We're doing the deal at 3p a share. That's obviously quite a significant premium to where we are now, but we believe represents good value for the company. Of course, it's where we recently raised money as well. The warrants package is obviously mutually beneficial to both of us. It provides Kavango with, a runway to more funds, and it gives Power and Power shareholders more upside. But really, for us, having 100% focus on these projects at this stage in the market, obviously things are pretty awful right now, and they could stay awful for, who knows, maybe a bit longer than people expect. But a recovery will come. The outlook for the sector is extremely bullish. The green revolution is only just starting, and a lot of copper will be needed to power that. So from our point of view, with the confidence we have in being in the right postcode to make discoveries, we think this is going to be a huge deal, both for Kavango and for Power shareholders. Plus, of course, there's the fact that it means that we now have a strategic shareholder on our books. So Power's position, I think, will be around about 16% of the company. That's obviously great. And, so it's not just the optics of it in practical terms. It means that we have long-term shareholder support from what amounts to effectively an institution. So it really is a great deal for us. And we can't wait to pick up the baton here and run with it and start drilling at KCB later this year.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, for giving us that update.
Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.